Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Mark Heijnen. I will be your host for today. And today's speaker is Todd Clark, Manager IT Operation from GetWell. And he will give his talk about Mac admins versus shadow IT, winning the war for user compliance. Give a warm applause for Todd.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Mac admins versus shadow IT, winning the war for user compliance, which I honestly kind of thought was going to be one of the longest JNUC session titles this year, but I'm not even sure I made the top 5. It's been a very descriptive title year. Again, my name is Todd Clark. I am the manager of IT operations at GetWell. If you're unfamiliar with GetWell, we are a digital healthcare company who for over 25 years have been a leader and an innovator in the digital healthcare space. Our platform serves more than 10 million patients annually at over 1,000 hospital and clinical partner sites. I've been with GetWell for nearly 5 years. Prior to that, I spent some time at Apple, and then nearly a decade in higher education at Iowa State University. And yes, that was probably more than you wanted to know about me. But I did it just to let you know that despite that job title, in my heart, I am and will forever be a Mac admin. And that's going to come into play here. Before we get too far into this, though, I'd like to bring up a couple milestones. This year marks my 10th JNUC, if my math is correct, and it's my 4th time presenting. Do we have any first-timers today at all? I'm going to echo what Sam said this morning. Do everything you can. Go to as many parties, go to as many sessions as you can, and thank you for choosing my session to come to for one of your first JNUCs. For the rest of us that have been here and come into JNUC for a while, I hope you've attended and maybe even took something away from one of my past sessions. If not, they're all on YouTube. They were all titled some version of How to Keep Your CISO Happy. There was How to Keep Your CISO Happy with Automation, followed up with How to Keep Your CISO Happy with Data and Alerts. And then finally, last year, we did How to Keep Your CISO Happy with IT during security audits. Memories. Anyways, I am excited to be back this year, and I'd like to thank Jamf for 2 things. The first is, of course, allowing me to speak again. But the second is for holding JNUC during my birthday week. So I brought this giant gift bag, and I'll be accepting any and all gifts, gift cards, snacks, cash, swag, whatever you got. I'm not picky. Anything really. And if you didn't bring anything today, that's fine. You can just flag me down in the hallways throughout the rest of the week. I'll set that right over there. But I would wonder if we could all just maybe take a selfie. That I could have that for my birthday week at JNUC. If you don't want to be in it, put your head down, cover it, whatever. But thank you all for coming. That's awesome. All right, back to today though. This year, I wanted to pivot slightly away from just keeping your CISO happy, because as much as I love being one, I'm not sure being just a Mac admin is enough anymore, or at least it's not all we can be. Now we have to add cybersecurity something, whether that's specialist, enthusiast, expert, to that skill set. And so I wanted to talk about a problem that's getting harder and harder to ignore, and that problem being the growing problem of shadow IT. Now, shadow IT isn't new, but it's definitely gotten more creative. 10 to 15 years ago, it was someone installing Chrome when you wanted them using Safari. Now it's installing unauthorized applications with Homebrew, or signing up for SaaS tools with corporate identities, or working from personal devices that IT has zero insight into. And the thing is, these aren't bad users. They're just trying to work fast, solve problems, or get their job done. So the real challenge isn't in just detecting shadow IT, it's handling it without being seen as the enemy. So here's what we're going to go through today. We're going to define shadow IT and how it's showing up specifically in Mac environments. And then I'll show how we use Jamf Pro to track and respond to shadow IT, whether it's coming from Homebrew or some other unauthorized location. We're going to talk a little about BYOD and the struggles that we faced at GetWell with these devices and their contribution to our shadow IT story. And then we'll look at some ways to detect shadow IT outside of Jamf Pro. And then we're going to look ahead, though maybe not that far these days, to shadow AI, because generative AI tools are the next wave of unsanctioned tech in our environments. And finally, we'll wrap up with some actionable takeaways that you can take back to your organization. And if things go smoothly, we'll have some time for Q&A. Let's get into it. So first, let's define what do we mean by shadow IT. At its core, shadow IT refers to any system, service, or application that bypasses official IT policies. So as I mentioned earlier, for example, let's say you're a Safari shop and a user installs Chrome to do their work, or pseudo vice versa, in our case, where users use Safari instead of their managed Chrome browser. Or it could be somebody in the marketing department that's using Notion instead of your organization-approved Confluence, or a developer installing something like Homebrew, and then using an unsupported IDE because they're more comfortable using that version versus the one that's supported. And there's endless other examples, I guess, is I could name, but you get the point. And it's not always malicious, and in fact, it's rarely malicious, but the result is always the same. IT has no visibility, no documented approval, and may not have the ability to secure that tool or the data that's running through it. And I know this doesn't play well to people that may watch this later online, but if I could, a show of hands, how many of you have encountered a user saying something along the lines of, I've been using that app, I thought it was approved? And now how many of you had to then block an application because it was not approved? Yeah. I know from experience that it doesn't always get the best response from our users when we have to do that, and I've definitely had to be the bearer of bad news more than once, which leads to users who were not frustrated with me personally, but they're more instead frustrated with the policies that affect their ability to do their best work. And there is a balance, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So why does this matter? Why is shadow IT actually a problem? For me, there are three big reasons. The first being security. Users might store data in services that don't meet your organization's security standards, or worse, they're reusing credentials across multiple services, or they're authorizing tools via OAuth that can now read from their corporate accounts. And next, there's compliance. If you're dealing with security compliances and security certifications like SOC 2, HITRUST, FedRAMP, et cetera, you need to know what tools are in use, where your data is going, and how it's protected. Shadow IT blows holes in all of that. And three, there's the operational risk. When IT doesn't know what's out there, we can't support it, we can't patch it, and we can't properly respond to it. And it only takes one shadowy app or tool to trigger a real problem and a real incident. At GetWell, we are a 95% Apple shop. And in our environment like ours, this problem of shadow IT shows up in some unique ways. So let's talk about how shadow IT specifically shows up in Mac environments, because it doesn't always look like sketchy software that someone found in a random Google search. I'm going to start with Homebrew, and I'm going to pick on Homebrew a lot. But I want to let you know that Homebrew is awesome. It's really hard to quantify how much of my time is saved because of Homebrew. So I don't want you to take away that Homebrew is bad. We use Homebrew. We give because we have developers, and maybe you do too. But developers, they expect a certain level of freedom to do their job. We can't lock their workflows down because honestly, they'll find ways around it, or they'll go somewhere that doesn't. So when it comes to shadow IT with Homebrew, for me, the goal isn't to block it, it's to monitor it, report on it, and make sure we understand what's running in our environment. OAuth and SaaS tools, these are the apps that your users are accessing in their browser, things like Notion, Figma, Canva, Dropbox, etc., where they're logging in with their corporate identity. And thanks to those convenient sign in with Google or sign in with Apple buttons, they can create fully connected accounts with one click. And once that happens, company data is flowing into a system that IT may never have heard of. What's worse, these tools often request permission scopes we wouldn't normally recommend, like access to a user's Google Drive or calendar-specific events. I mean, nobody's really reading that OAuth consent screen because the login is so seamless, which makes it easy for them and us to miss what's really happening. And Jamf can't see this natively, especially when it's browser-based, which is why we'll talk later about layering in an external visibility tool and some policies that help close that gap. And finally, there's the BYOD creep. What I mean by that is, users are checking their email on their personal laptop, they're syncing files to iCloud, they're taking Zoom calls on phones that you don't manage. Quick check again, if I could. How many of you are managing personal devices alongside with your corporate fleet? Couple, okay. So in some orgs, that's a formal MDM enrollment. In others, it's a conditional access policy and a strong security policy. In ours, more on that in a minute. In any case, if company data is living on a device that you don't manage, that's part of your shadow IT story. And these are the kind of scenarios that we're all up against, and that's why we need more than just policy. We need tooling, visibility, and a better approach. So let's shift to what we're doing about it and how with Jamf Pro. You can't manage what you can't see. And in Jamf Pro, that means going beyond the defaults. When it comes to seeing things, I can get by most of the time without my glasses. I have an astigmatism. So Jamf Pro, like my regular eyesight, works really well for getting the big picture. I can see the general shapes and outlines of things, what's in my environment. But if I want to see the finer details, to make the stuff that can make a difference between finding shadow IT, catching it, or missing it entirely, I have to put on my glasses. In Jamf Pro, those glasses are custom extension attributes. They sharpen the view so that I can focus on exactly what I need to. Pulling in the data, pulling in data in fields that the built-in fields don't always give me. Sorry, stuck up there, caught up there. Once the details are in focus, I have Jamf Pro organize that information into smart groups, and now the picture isn't just sharp, it's categorized and then kept up to date automatically. And from there, it's simple. I can create policies scoped to those smart groups and targeting only the devices that users actually need action on. And now we've got our glasses on and we can see clearly. It's time to take the next step, which is tracking. Visibility showed us that there's something there. Tracking is where we lean in, grab the magnifying glass, and start examining what's really going on. We've located some places shadow IT can hide, so let's use those to our environment and start tracking shadow IT. Back to my old friend Homebrew. We have an extension attribute to confirm if it's installed. We have another that looks for the version so that we can make sure that we're using the correct version and that we know the version that's on there. And we have a third that lists all the casks that are installed by Homebrew. And this also allows us to run reports later in Jamf against all applications that are installed, or sometimes even via the API. We can run a script with Python script. This is just a partial snippet. But if you're looking for help to write your own or have notes on writing a better one, please flag me down later. But these help us looking for things we mostly don't want, things like Slack, Dropbox, Wireshark, tools and apps that may be totally legitimate for some users, but shadow apps for others. And now that we know what we have in our environment, we can cross-reference that data against other tools like Ploy, which I'll talk about later. Putting these two steps together, visibility gives us the ability to track, and tracking is how we learn more. The more we know, the more strategic and less disruptive our response can be. And that response is remediation. But we don't have to be the enemy here. Sometimes it's just educating the user, a chat message, an email, a check-in from a support team. Other times we will create policies tied to those smart groups from earlier to remove unauthorized or unwanted software. Or maybe we design a custom pop-up that tells a user a step that they need to take. We also take advantage of Jamf's restricted software feature, especially for blocking known risk apps. And in some cases, we'll even pair smart groups with removal scripts and policies, which is especially helpful if you want to automate without going nuclear. We can detect it, notify, or not, and then clean up our fleet. For us in this situation, the key is not to overreach. We treat remediation as a conversation, not a crackdown. Hopefully it never comes to that, because if it has, that means we haven't done our job in locating the real problem, which is shadow IT, and where it's hiding within our organization. And I hope by now you started thinking about your own environment, where you've got visibility, where the gaps are, hopefully even some steps you can take to detect and try to eliminate shadow IT. But the reality of it is it's harder than you think, and there is no perfect solution. We're all going to wrestle with this all the time. In fact, sometimes shadow IT is hiding right there in plain sight. It's on a desk, next to a keyboard, or in a pocket, or a purse, just waiting patiently. And by that, I mean a phone. And I'm of the belief that one of the hardest areas to manage, especially in a Mac-heavy organization, is BYOD. People want to check their email on their phone. They want to hop into a lunch and learn with their iPad. They want flexibility, and I get that. But personal devices come with risks. And some of these may look familiar. I'm just going to zip right through them. There's the security of them. If the device is unmanaged, we can't enforce updates. We can't come on, there we go. We can't control encryption, and we can't even control passcode compliance. And often we can't tell if that device is even compromised. Again, with compliance, there's SOC 2, High Trust, FedRAMP. Whatever framework you're working within, they all boil down to that similar requirement: know where your data lives, who has access to it, and how it's protected. But if someone is using a personal Mac in a way that's not managed in any way, and they download a customer export, PHI data, financial report, and then they drag it into their iCloud, or just leave it in their downloads folder, that's a machine that we don't manage. That's shadow data, and that one file can blow your entire audit trail. You might have policies, but at that moment, you have no technical control in place to enforce them, and that's going to put you out of scope because you can't prove where the data went, how long it stayed there, or whether or not it was deleted securely. Then we have the operational risk, and that's the part that keeps the manager and Mac admin and me and maybe you awake at night. When a device isn't enrolled, again, we lose that. We have no patch visibility. We don't know if the apps that are installed are up to date. Encryption, again, yes, I keep encryption. We'll talk about it forever. We have no ability to run policies or scripts on that device. Even if we find out about an issue, we probably can't fix it. And again, there's no real audit trail. So if your legal department or your HR asks who accessed this file, you're forced into guessing. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to be put in that situation. And if, as a worst case scenario, someone leaves the company with a local copy of sensitive data on their hard drive on a device that IT has never touched, it's not theoretical, it has happened to us, thankfully not recently. And the truth is, if it's not in Jamf Pro or in our Windows MDM, for those few folks that we have, we're potentially blind to it. So with those risks in mind, we have committed to expanding our BYOD support, especially on the mobile side, and with the understanding that it's not just about managing devices, it's about protecting our data. And full transparency here, our BYOD policy is, we'll call it more of a loosely defined conditional access policy. Officially somewhere in the fine print it says we reserve the right to wipe your device if you've used it to access company data, and we have a reason to believe the device has been lost or compromised, or if you leave the company. Leave that there. As I've mentioned in the past, we are a Google shop. So in practice, if you're using the Gmail app, we can issue an account wipe through Google Workspace, and your company account should vanish, which works for the most part. However, if you're not using the Gmail app, and instead you're using the native mail client or something else, Wish in one hand, in the other, that's your device, that's not ours. So in reality, you're in control, not us. We can't do much. Now on our corporate managed devices, our iPhones, iPads, Apple TVs, et cetera, Jamf Pro works great. We even have some simple compliance checks, one of which being for our wireless network at headquarters, no Jamf, no Wi-Fi. But for true BYOD, we've struggled. And in fact, we have what I will forever call the beta BYOD program at GetWell. And I understand that every organization is different. So in the spirit of learning from your mistakes, and ours, I'd like to share our journey so far. We tried going with the Google route to manage our devices. Google Shop, Google Management seemed like a sound idea, and technically it works, but it's a square peg in a round hole situation in my opinion. In testing that we found if you send an account wipe to someone's phone or remove it from management, Google will happily delete all of their entire Gmail app and all of the data included personal accounts as well. Our testers were not thrilled. We also, maybe predictably, I hope not, but maybe predictably tried running Jamf and Google Device Management at the same time. This was a big mistake. I said it wouldn't work. I was right, but I was overturned. So now I had the data to prove my point. I'm not going to bore you with why this doesn't work. I will just please trust me here. Don't do it, and hopefully you can find better ways to use your time. Next, thanks to a licensing change within Jamf and now doubly frustrated users, we decided to take a good hard look at Apple's account-driven user enrollment with Jamf Pro. And as many of you know, this is a management technique that allows you to separate work data from company data, or work data from personal data, which means you get to manage just the business apps and configurations you want, and you avoid touching non-work data, photos, personal email, or anything outside the scoped workspace. Basically exactly what our security team wants and what our users want. Privacy for them, security and control for us, and oh no, went away. Let's try that again. We'll get there, sorry. Might have extra clicked there. Google to manage, our big mistake. There's where we're at. We're going there. I just wanted to put this up so I get everybody to say hi to 3 of my 4 chihuahuas, they were clearly thrilled to be in this presentation. They got snubbed last year, so they really wanted to be in there today. But we didn't roll this out, and we didn't do it because it doesn't work, but because we didn't have the buy-in yet from our management. And they feel it would be disruptive, and even with assurances from our testers, who've been burned several times, mind you, the decision makers just weren't willing to make that decision yet. So that puts us back to where we are now, square one. And maybe you face this too. The testing shows it works, the documentation exists, the intent exists, but there's just not a strong push from your leadership. And as of the creation of this presentation, and right now, it hasn't left the cool idea, this would be nice to have column yet. So what we have is our loose disclaimer policy. If you want to use a personal device, gosh darn it, I keep hitting the wrong button, and I'm sorry for you guys having to see these again, but I guess you can wave at the chihuahuas again when they show up. What we have is our loose disclaimer policy. If you want to use a personal device, it's on you. If you leave the company or we think your data is at risk, we send the account delete command. That's what's on paper. If you're not using the Gmail, in practice, if you're not using the Gmail app or the Google Drive app on your device, there's not much we can do. But please don't get too concerned for us. We do have other security tools in place, but from a device management standpoint, it's been a struggle, which is one of the many reasons that Shadow IT, it's just not something that's easy to get rid of. Now, what do you mean by other security tools? Thank you for asking. As I'm sure a lot of organizations do, we're always looking for ways to try and figure out when a personal device starts behaving like a corporate device. And that brings Shadow IT one step closer to your organization. And one of the ways we do this is monitoring when users sign into new tools with their work credentials. And that's why I wanted to talk about how we're detecting unsanctioned SaaS usage and doing OAuth monitoring. Now, just a quick pause so we're on the same page. We're shifting from devices to accounts because not everything risky starts on the endpoint. And as you've probably discovered or probably will discover, even if a device is fully managed and compliant, you may have zero visibility into what browser-based tools your users are authenticating into with their work account. That's why we started using a tool called Ploy. I've talked about Ploy in the past and some of the things we use it for. It's such a very cool, versatile product. And today I'd like to talk to you about our biggest use for it. Ploy watches for new account signups in our Google Workspace. And it does work with other providers as well, but Google Workshop, or Google Shop. And Ploy does this by monitoring OAuth activity and parsing subject lines and message content in our user's email. It doesn't read the emails, it's more looking for keywords and phrases. But that means when somebody uses that sign in with Google button or creates an account on a site and uses their company email address, we get an alert. And that alert includes the name and domain of the site or the app or service, whether it was an OAuth or username password sign up. If the app or site is unknown to us or we're aware of it and it's been marked as unsanctioned, the user will get a follow-up message asking if they actually intended to sign up for that site. It's extremely rare, but we wanted to rule out a compromised account. That alert then prompts them via a survey that we've created in Ploy to answer a few questions about that account they've created. And then the IT and security teams review those surveys and any new apps that have come across in Ploy as part of a regular review process where we ask ourselves and each other, do we know this app? Did the user fill out the survey? Is it necessary for business? Is it personal? It might be easier to use your work account, but I don't really need to know that you only stay at XYZ hotel chain or you've joined rewards. at your local coffee shop. That's for you to know. And in those cases, we'll follow up with the user and ask them to convert that account to their personal email. And for OAuth apps, we also review what permissions were granted to the app. If the app is given a full Google Drive access, that's kind of a red flag. And then we'll try to determine if we can and will allow this app within our environment, if our policies allow for that, or for not putting company data at risk. And then based on those findings, we may actually revoke the OAuth token for that app, or for that user, or for all users of that app. And like I said, any app that we've previously marked as unsanctioned will have the token automatically revoked. If we don't want a user using an app or service at all, we may even go the nuclear route and block it completely on Google Workspace from the whole company. And I know what you're thinking. Todd, we're at JNUC. Can we please get back to the Jamf stuff? Yes, I promise, we're almost there. Just one little small piece of the puzzle, and then we'll get back to that. So once we started seeing what our users were signing up for and into via Ploy, the next step was obvious, and it was looking at the browser itself. Again, I'm sorry to be a broken record here, but we're a Google shop, and the question became, why aren't we doing more with and getting more from Google Chrome? So back to Jamf Pro now, hooray. We're using configuration profiles. We're managing Chrome, and with doing that, we learned a lot. We created some custom extension attributes to pull info from Chrome. We can see who's signed into the browser. We look at the profile, email address, any personal accounts that are being used, what Google groups the user is in. This is helpful for flagging elevated or incorrect access to resources, which extensions are installed, are any of those risky, redundant, or not approved. And then bringing that all together, Ploy shows us where and how the signup happened, the account side of the equation, but Jamf Pro helps us answer the device side of the equation. The device side of the equation. What device did they use? Is it managed? Do they have the native app installed on that device as well? We use all of that data, cross-reference it, the device inventory, account information, and our approved software list to determine whether we need to create any new or specific policies in Jamf Pro or scope an existing policy to adjust something or remove something. Ultimately, what we're trying to determine is whether this is a one-off or a broader pattern across multiple devices and users. All combined, this gives us visibility that we've never had before in our battle against shadow IT. Why does this matter? Chrome, and the browser in general, is where a lot of shadow IT happens. SaaS signups, extensions, personal account access. And Jamf Pro can't natively show you most of that. But with the right scripting, you can pull exactly what you need into a managed devices inventory so you're not jumping around to multiple different admin consoles. We use this data to trigger follow-ups when users are signed into personal accounts, flag extensions that are not approved, surface unmanaged tools that look like native apps but actually run in browser. More to the point, the browser isn't just the browser anymore. It's an operating system on top of the one that you're already managing. But you can still gather information from it and get that information into Jamf Pro to help you detect shadow IT. And that brings us to the next phase of this whole story, the newest kind of shadow IT that's harder to detect, spreads fast, and often lives entirely in the browser. We talked about unapproved software, unmonitored SaaS, and unmanaged devices, but all of that has a new flavor now, and it's showing up faster than we expected. That new flavor is shadow AI. Shadow AI is the use of AI tools or services without IT knowledge or approval. And in my experience, it's usually by employees trying to move faster than IT or InfoSec is ready to move. And while not an all-inclusive list, obviously that would be impossible at this point, here's just some examples of some shadow AI tools signing into ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, or Gemini with a work email, uploading internal docs into these AI tools for summaries or analysis, using browser extensions that inject AI functionality into apps like Gmail or Google Docs, letting AI write or rephrase sensitive code or communications. Don't get me wrong, it can all be very helpful, but it creates major security risks because shadow AI tools often store input data on external servers, and they retain training logs unless they've otherwise been configured. And some will even request excessive permissions through OAuth, remember this from earlier, this could lead to sensitive information, customer info, internal strategy, even code getting piped into platforms that aren't governed by your policies. And in many cases, users don't even realize that they've done anything risky. So what can we as Mac admins do to combat this? Well, as of right now, Jamf Pro can't directly tell you if someone opened and used ChatGPT in Chrome. But here's what we can do to get more information about shadow AI in our organizations. Again, we monitor the browser extensions, like AI writing assistants or summarizers via extension attributes. We cross-reference the Chrome profile sign-ins with app usage flagged by a tool like Ploy. We can track and monitor the apps that are installed in your fleet, or you can get really creative and use the Jamf Pro API to build reports that correlate apps, users, and devices. And some of those API examples that were shown this morning have really, I don't know about you, but got my head thinking about this. But it's not a perfect system, but it's a place to start. Or in our case, more specifically, what we're watching for at GetWell are which AI tools are showing up in Ploy alerts, whether extensions like Grammarly, Compose AI, or Jasper are appearing in managed browsers. And to bring this back one more time, determining what, if any, types of access these tools are asking for. From there, we work backward within our security stack to figure out what data our users are feeding these services, whether or not we need to block that tool or perhaps set something up to educate them or their team. And I know that I said we were going to look towards the future with this, but shadow AI isn't some temporary thing. It is the new default. These tools are already getting embedded into the apps that users rely on, and if we don't build some guardrails now, they're going to be baked into workflows in ways that are really hard to undo later. So to recap that real quick, start small, watch for the account signups, monitor the browser behavior, and if you can, get a seat at the table when your organization starts talking about AI. Because like shadow IT, shadow AI is already here, and the only question is whether or not we're paying attention. Let's bring this home. We've covered a lot today. Unauthorized software, unsanctioned apps, device sprawl, data loss risks, and even AI creeping in through the side door. See, it's open over there. Probably can't, but it's open, it's creeping in. And while none of these problems are new, they are getting harder to spot, harder to manage, and in some cases becoming even more personal than ever before. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this session, it's this. It's this. It's still this. There we go. Shadow IT is here to stay. It's not a trend, it's the new normal. And as long as users can sign up for tools, download apps, or bring their own devices, shadow IT is going to exist. Our job isn't to eliminate it. It's to detect it, react when appropriate, and respond in ways that build trust with our users. Diligence is a key. It's not the key to detecting shadow IT. Jamf Pro gives us a lot of visibility if we take the time to use it and get the data we need from it, extension attributes, smart groups, inventory data. That's how we surface what's hiding in plain sight. And I know diligence doesn't always scale easily, but it will pay off down the road in fewer surprises later. BYOD can be a pain, but it's not going away either. And if you've tried to run a BYOD program, you already know there are privacy concerns, policy gaps, conflicts between systems. I showed you how we're in the middle of rethinking our own approach because even with the best intentions, it's far from perfect. But what we've learned is this: you can't just bolt on the term BYOD and hope everything works. You need to set clear boundaries. You need the right tools like Apple's account-driven enrollment, and maybe most importantly, buy-in from your leadership. Next, third-party tools are sometimes necessary. Jamf Pro is awesome and it can do a lot, but it can't see everything. That's why we brought Ploy into our security stack to detect OAuth signups, see what permissions were requested and granted, and flag new SaaS signups. It gave us visibility we didn't know we were missing. And honestly, sometimes a third-party tool is the only way to fill that critical blind spot. Manage your browsers. The browser is the new operating system. It's where most of our apps live now. That means the old model of only looking at installed applications isn't enough. As I've shown, we use Jamf to collect browser profile data, Google group membership, and installed extensions, because that's where the shadow IT activity really happens. If you're not already doing this, it's very easy to set up, and it will give you a massive insight into your fleet. And then finally, shadow AI is also here, and it's growing even faster, smarter, and sneakier every day. I can confidently say that we're seeing more tools embedded AI every single day into workflows. There's note-taking apps, email, IDE, CRM systems, browser extensions. Some of them are great. Some are terrifying. And the problem is that you don't always know what data they're accessing. And this is where, the diligence from before meets the curiosity of every Mac admin and now cybersecurity enthusiast. My recommendation is to start asking the hard questions now before your auditors do. And if you're not doing any of this yet, please don't run out of here in a panic and call your CISO directly. Start where you can. Maybe it's scoping your first smart group for a tool like Homebrew. Maybe it's just starting the conversation around BYOD or SaaS monitoring. But whatever you do, do it transparently. Tell your users what you're doing and why, because that's how you stop being seen as the no team and start being seen as a partner in this war against shadow IT. Thank you all for coming today. You can find me lurking, but not posting as much as I should anyway, on the Mac Admin Slack. I'm TD Clark on there. Again, thank you all for coming. And I guess if we have any, we can do a little QA.
Thank you, Todd. Yeah, we have about 9 minutes. So
or if you have gifts.
Questions?
If you have gifts, the bag's still up here.
So do people have some questions? I will walk to you.
I think I'm going to bring sunglasses next time. They put that light like right in here.
Hey, how's it going? So I feel your pain with Google Workspace because I am in a similar boat. I did have a question. Since you say you manage Chrome browsers probably through the enterprise Chrome browser enrollment, have you thought about just doing a deny all for Chrome extensions and then you allowing it? And then also, I know that Google has their Access apps that they implemented. So if you're looking for somebody that did like sign up Google with SSO, by default, you should have like an error 400 saying, well, this has not been approved by your team in Google Workspace. Or exploit searching a little bit more, not just like sign up with Google, but also like username at domain and then something else.
Wonderful points. Love it all. I'll give you my security guy's email address. And you can, I'm kind of at their whim. So I have to work around what they want, and I've definitely brought up the turn off all OAuth signups and only allow certain OAuth signups from. It's just at this point we've not done that. It's there. I would love to use it. I would love to, and we have turned it off for some domains if we found that they're just completely not work related or anything. But until that changes, I don't have that luxury to put that in place. So yes, that would be awesome. I'll put you in touch with him. His name's Jose.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
I have a question. So in regards to monitoring application installs on Mac devices, we kind of went through it a little bit, but do you have any like surefire suggestions on how to actually find or be alerted of new applications installs on end users' devices? Using Jamf or scripting or anything else like that. Right now I am using a very manual method of trying to figure out new application installs, and I'm looking for a way to maybe automate that or make it a little bit easier to find those new installations of applications.
There are probably some ways you could do it programmatically. I would think maybe you could, on inventory, I'm just spitballing here. So I'm thinking on inventory, since it gathers all apps that are installed, you have some sort of file on the Mac that compares that versus the last time it had inventory. If there is a change, maybe have that trigger a webhook, and that sends off to maybe a Slack channel or some sort of chat channel or an email or something.
Yeah. I'll have to update my script. I currently have one that goes through a Teams channel, but right now, and I'm pretty sure it's my terrible scripting, I just want to get out ahead of that. It is both, it picks up the versioning updates of when the application actually updates. So I'm getting new installs and updates at the same time. So it's a little annoying. I'm pretty sure it's just how I'm doing my script right now more than anything.
Yeah, it's probably just needs some if then logic in there in the middle. We have quarterly reports that we run, and we do version checking. Of course, I'm doing, with the app installers and with patch management. I'm probably still one of the few people still using title editor for apps that are just for our company, but there's that. So.
And for me to add on, I'm on the app installer team. There are stuff that it's not only from you the feedback that we're getting. So obviously it's not now here, but obviously hopefully in the future we're able to help out with building those reports as well, right? Because I'm pretty sure for most of the admins that's something they want. I think that was a question.
I'll be first in line.
Hi. So I feel like most shadow IT is caused by like some security policy maybe that was put in place, understandably so. So how do you balance, security and a positive user experience to where, like our users can still get their job done, but also not, put company data at risk? I know that's.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. So we have yearly training where we give, and I'm sure lots of companies do this, yearly training to where everybody is given, this is what's expected of you as far as security-wise. Again, we're not looking to be confrontational from an IT or a security standpoint. If it gets to that point, it's gotten really bad. Our other security tools that our security team uses, they will more than likely flag those things and then pass them down to us versus those guys going directly to a user. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but for the most part, they're not the ones that are directly interacting with one of our users. It also kind of helps that we're about an 85% remote company, so none of us have to see each other's face ever. No, I'm kidding. We can just send messages, we can get on Zoom calls, and yes, we do see each other's faces. That was just a joke, but in case HR watches this.
Any more questions?
Camera's on.
There's one more.
All the way back there.
Hi. That's good. Just to follow up with that earlier question, do you have like a order or steps of like contact for how you would let users know? Like, hey, first is a pop-up message, hey, we noticed this, please reference this policy, and what the offending item was, and then what you would do for follow-ups. Do you do anything like that, or do you have a process, or what have you learned in that kind of development?
So yes, there is a process. I guess it would kind of start with the ploy alerts. We have different workflows within Ploy that let us know when users have signed up for a new service or logged into a new service. And from there, we kind of gather, do we need to look further into it? I guess it's kind of, it depends. I wouldn't say that we go here, 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 and then we end up here, because sometimes we can easily go from here to here and just wipe that app away from the user's profile, and they don't even know about it. We may send them a message through that same alert system that says, hey, we saw you signed into this app. That's not approved. It's been removed from your account. That rarely happens. For the most part, it's just a lot of re-educating the user about what is appropriate use, what they should be doing on their work computers versus what they are doing sometimes. And we also have monthly meetings where our security team kind of gives updates on, hey, we've noticed an uptick in this type of app being installed. Once again, this is not allowed. Please kind of phase that out. And then I know the security team works directly with the managers of the developers to say, hey, this version of this library is no longer allowed. Please stop using it, remove it, etc. Those type of things. Does that answer the question, or is that kind of? We can talk later if you'd like. Flag me down.
And Todd, we're rounding up. Where can people reach out if they have more questions?
TD Clark on Mac admins would be a great place to find me there. I do, like I said, lurk there way too often. I don't post enough, but that'd be the best place. I think you can reach me through the email on the app. I'm also on LinkedIn, which I think the app actually gives you my LinkedIn too. So if you want to say hi there.
Then one last round for applause for Todd. Thank you for your presentation.